Hello, everybody, and welcome to a little series of questions. And today I am very, very lucky to have Mr. Patrick Duffy with us. He is the founder of the Global Fashion Exchange and the founder of Swap Chain. And these are very important resources for those of us that really do care about what's going on in the sustainable fashion world and the regenerative fashion. This is the guy that starts it all. And I'm lucky to have him here and to be able to ask him a few questions. And we'll try not to take up too much of his time, but I hope that you enjoy. So, hey, Patrick, how are you?
Hi, it's so nice to see you. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. I'm
It is
so
an
happy to be
honor
here.
to have you, sir. Thank you
Well,
for
thank
agreeing
you.
to do this from gorgeous paradise.
Yes, we brought the birds and the trees for you, so and everybody that's watching. So you can hear little bees and birds in the background. That's all for you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, especially those of us stuck in the freezing cold.
Yeah,
Most of us.
yes,
We might be a
of course.
little bit jealous.
Yeah.
Just a little.
I can't take credit for creating it. That's Mother Nature, but I curated that. That's what's
Sure.
happening right now.
That is an important job.
Yeah.
All righty, sir. I'm going to get right down to it because I have my questions right here.
All
And
right, we're ready.
you are ready. I'll just start flinging them.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
All righty. So something that I'm curious about, you do a lot of global fashion exchange in the swap chain, and that means swapping clothing. My understanding of swapping is an exchange of I'll give you these clothes and you give me those clothes. We
Yeah.
exchange them, right? There's also this resale that's going on where lots of brands and lots of people are doing resale of their clothing. Um, Resale sites, vintage sites, all of that kind of thing. Is this somehow interconnected? Is it kind of the same thing, or what's the difference?
Oh, good. That's a really good question. So I'll break it down. Swapping essentially is an act of exchange and almost like bartering and trading. And so essentially, if you're going to technically swap something, I would say, Donnie, I like your sweater. Maybe we swap this shirt for that sweater that you're wearing
Mhm.
in a very, very basic form. What I do with swapping is a little bit different. So we turn swapping into an event or something where many people can participate. So I will bring a few items to an event. You'll bring a few items to an event, and we drop those things at a check-in desk. And then those items become currency. So there's a currency that gets created with swapping, which is based on the value that we perceive for our items. So when you come to a swapping event, you drop three items, I drop three items, we both get three tokens, and we both get to go into um, a living room, an area that we've merchandised, we've created like, let me give some examples. Madison Square Garden, we did a clothing swap at Federation Square in Milan, and Australia, where they do the Oscar arrivals in Los Angeles, hotel suites with your friends. So essentially, swapping is the act of sharing and exchanging, but there's no monetary exchange.
Right.
The resale is essentially what it sounds like. So if you and I are wanting to resell our shirts and our sweaters, what we potentially do is connect with an online sales site, or I could just sell it right to you. So essentially, it's just taking something that's been used, it's secondhand, and you're reselling it or revaluing it to sell again. So those are the two different things. So one has swapping and exchanging has no actual monetary currency attached to it technically, and then the resale is when you're taking something that's used and actually reselling it. How'd I do?
That's good. I mean, that explains it for me because I was curious about how those swapping things work.
Okay.
Let's say I brought in this sweater,
Mhm.
and I just had that sweater. Um, my friend brought in a Zinnia suit.
Mhm.
How many tokens does he get? How many tokens do I get?
Well, typically, that's a very good question. So that actually addresses the question of value and how do we value things.
Mhm.
So typically, when I started Global Fashion Exchange, we did something that was like a one-to-one swap. So everybody would bring whatever items they brought. We usually say bring 5 gently used items that you'd want to give as a gift. So that means that hopefully that Xenia suit is still in condition, and hopefully that sweater is still in great condition. You're not bringing things that you would, are dire need of repair or stained, or so you bring things that are in good condition. And when you drop them, typically it was like I said, is 1-to-1. So your sweater would get 1 token, and his Xenia suit would get 1 token. As we evolved, what we started to understand was that there may be differences in value or perceived value for things. And so we started to create a system which would allow swap hosts, for instance, if you were a swap host or this person over here was a swap host, to say, this is a quote luxury item, and then this is what you would call a high street item. So then, for instance, you would come and your high street sweater would go, you'd get 1 token for your high street sweater, which would then go into the high street position in the swap, and the suit potentially would get 1 token, but it goes into the suit's position. So then you've created this currency where you can have one opportunity to take 1 high street item and 1 suiting item, if that makes, or luxury item. But what's been really interesting about this whole conversation of value is that, like, how we value things is in a way a little bit messed up, because what I start to understand when I would see people come to these clothing swaps with a branded t-shirt, for instance, like let's say it says Balenciaga all across the front of the t-shirt. Now we know that the t-shirt costs $1,000. We know that it's sold in some boutiques, in Paris, whatever the deal is. But at the core, it may be an organic cotton t-shirt, but at the core, it's pretty much just a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It might be made of some special materials, I don't know, but we're looking at, okay, is this t-shirt really $1,000, or are we paying for the branding and marketing and all that stuff that goes along with it? And some of the things that have happened, which have been quite funny, I'll just share some like behind the scenes stories, is people get very attached to the items that they feel are of super high value, like the Balenciaga t-shirts or whatever it is. And they don't want to let go of those things because they fear that they're not going to find something of equal value, AKA a brand that they recognize and equate as an equal value in the clothing swap. So over the years that I've been doing it and seeing all of this and hearing and all of this happen, I started to develop a new way to kind of assess value for things. And it's not based on a brand, it's based on quality, and it's based on how it's made, it's based on how sustainable the materials are. And now we're actually starting to look at how its reuse strategy is involved in that as well. So instead of looking at a label and saying, that's a luxury t-shirt, we say, where does this go? Does it go in high quality, or does it go in,
high quality
high
is
street?
based on the actual quality of the item.
Yeah, correct.
The original sale price of the item.
Correct, yeah. And I think that's what's really been interesting about this, is that people have been very, as I said, they've kind of been misguided by the fact that when they buy something sometimes in a luxury department store or luxury boutique, oftentimes the quality actually isn't that high. It's not as high as an item that's actually made by hand, but sells in Guatemala by an artisan for far less. So it's been a very interesting exercise to be able to educate people on quality and how that interlinks with value. Because also, Donny, like if something, you may drop off, I may drop off this shirt, but, or you and I may be at a swapping event, and you may look at my shirt and say, that's a nice shirt, but I don't want it. This shirt has no value to you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So, yeah.
It has to be understood. And that's exactly right. That also goes into the sustainability of it. If it's higher quality, it lasts longer, it's more sustainable, therefore it has more intrinsic value.
Correct.
Because it lasts. The ephemeral thing is not of a very high value in a clothing. Like, okay, this is really nice, but it dissolves in water.
Right, exactly.
Great, it's awesome fashion. And it's made of sugar, and as soon as it gets wet, it disappears. But you're like, well, you don't get a token for that. I'm sorry.
Or maybe you do, because it's not as harmful to the environment.
Okay, sure. It's not the environment, and you can use it in some way. Sure. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So we'll move on. That was interesting, though. I like it. So the other thing is, you do this, that actually answered part of this question, because you don't have the shipping costs involved with these things, because you're setting up actual events where people go and do this swapping and exchanges at the places. So there's no shipping cost, because that's one of the problems that you have with the resale,
Yeah.
part of things, is you're shipping it to this reseller. The reseller is then selling it to somebody and shipping it back out. It's still probably marginally better, I would think, than the cost of energy and our sustainability and for our ecosystem of creating something new.
Hmm.
It's much better still, but you're lessening that. And I
Yeah.
guess with the swapping, you've really come to a conclusion there, or come to a really fine line. You don't have that problem either.
Mhm.
Really?
Well, yes, for the in-person events, absolutely correct. And what's also great about it is that it builds community.
Good.
So, so you have the idea that you're not only sharing resources, but we also, with the swapping events, we share a lot of information. So valuable information about how your clothes are made, where your clothes are made with our partners from Fashion Revolution, or what the material is made of, or what's the post-consumer effect on the environment when you throw your clothing away into landfill. So what happens to it when it's done? How does that affect the environment and all that kind of stuff? So yes, you're correct that there's no waste that's created when you're doing the event. I mean, you could technically say that people taking a car or a train, whatever, to get there.
Okay.
Yes, of course you could say that, but no. But we are now venturing into the digital version of what we're doing with Global Fashion Exchange and Swap Chain, which is you will be able to, in the very near future, we're definitely taking a look at that. Good thing DHL Green is our partner, so we're looking at how we can absolutely minimize that to the most that we can. But yes, you're correct.
Okay. I mean, that's one of those deals where, like, for me, I don't believe that there is a way to get to a complete zero waste, paradigm. There that doesn't exist. There's always going to be some form of waste. There's going to be some form of energy used, and we just are trying to move as quickly as we can towards using the renewables and sustainable sources of energy and doing those types of things. But you have to start along that path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you ever want to get there, you can't just look at it and go, well, that's a great idea, but it still has this problem.
Right, exactly. Yep. Yep.
Okay, but is it a lot better than the
Mm-hmm.
actual problem? You're like, yes, then it's a step forward. It's in the right direction. Let's
Yeah.
take that step, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
we're getting there. We're getting to have electric planes before long, and we're going to have
Mm-hmm.
those electric planes powered by sustainable energy, which happens to be this week's theme. So I have to put
Yeah.
that in.
Yeah, I love it. Yes. No, you're absolutely right.
All right, so let me see what I've got. Question number 3. Um, is the swapping idea part of a broader move to a more circular economy?
Mhm. Yes, 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 yes.
All right.
Um, it's been funny because I've been like banging on about swapping for so long, and finally, I feel like people are they're not waking up to the idea of swapping being a really great thing, because it's so funny when you attend one or you swap or you share, whether it's an event or just us, there's like this weird like euphoric feeling that happens all
Mhm.
the time, like without fail. And what's amazing about it is that is kind of what's carried the concept forward and drives my passion for it, is the fact that you can really get something incredible and have a lot of fun. And now what's amazing is, in the bigger picture, is before, when we were doing these swap events, it was really kind of separate from retailers, separate from the fashion industry, and it was kind of, I kind of felt like it's been pushed to the side, like, oh, that's a really great marketing event, or oh, that's the swap guy, he's doing something fun. But brands and companies were not really taking it seriously. But I've had the vision for so long that this is something that actually can really benefit brands, benefit companies, not just from the ecological and social standpoint, but from a monetary point of view as well. Because if you can, for instance, like we're starting to do now, put swapping inside of retailers, as we've done,
Mhm.
what happens is it brings people who are interested in that type of economy, a sharing economy or a circular economy, into your store. And you're starting to then work with people who are interested in swapping, reselling, renting, all of these different types of circular economy activities,
Mhm.
which is amazing because when you do swapping, sharing, renting, leasing, whatever those things are, the dramatic decrease to the environment is huge.
Yeah.
But what people are now just starting to understand is that those are actually monetizable actions in most cases.
Mhm.
So you can rent, you can lease, and you can take one garment or one item and you can transact that item over and over and over and over in a retail setting. And I think before COVID, before all of this kind of conflama happened, I don't think people were really ready to kind of take that on and incorporating that into a retail landscape.
Yeah.
But looking at the silver lining from this devastation that's been happening is now retailers and brands are starting to say, well, we have to change, we have to innovate, we have to do something. And I'm just so happy that they have now seen that swapping and sharing can be an integral part of their business.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Me too. Because it is, at the end of the day, always going to be follow the money.
Yeah.
It is.
Hmm.
People are people. People are not going to change. They're going to stay this way. Follow the money, but find a way to use that to our advantage ecologically, though.
Hmm.
This is my thing. So I love the fact that if they're coming to you there and realizing, okay, well, there is a possibility to make, well, this is something we should be looking into and doing and putting into practice more. Great.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that somebody had written to me that, the devastation is so great here and there's nothing you can really do about it. It's like punching a knife. And I was like, that's kind of a tragic way to look at it. Like, what about thinking about stop punching the knife and find a way to redirect that tool to something that's more useful?
Hmm.
I think that's what you're doing. You're moving the knife. You're like, okay, here we
Hmm.
go. The
Yeah.
knife is great. They're great tools. Let's use it for this.
Yeah. Exactly.
Creating that circular economy, whether they really realize it or not.
Hmm. Bait and switch. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Hey, they've been doing it to us for ages, right?
But I come from a marketing and hospitality background, so
Yeah.
I really understand that you need to feel good. Things need to be sexy, whatever sexy means.
Mhm.
It just it needs to appeal. You need to have that feel appeal for anything, for any, even if it's fast fashion that you're trying to sell. I hope you're not trying to sell that, but you see my point.
Yeah.
It has to have that. It has to have that feeling to it, and so I think that's one thing that I think I'm okay at. I'm pretty good at it actually, is understanding how to make this appealing to not only the consumers but now to the brands. And part of that happens to be with the cash.
There you go. Brilliant.
Mhm.
Bravo. I love it. Let me see here. What else do we got? Oh, you know what? I have to say this because it just goes to exactly on it. Bazaar just put out a thing that said, is sustainable fashion taking all the fun out of fashion? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. I think to me, it's the opposite. To me, it creates individuality, which is the most fun thing that there is. Being able to go in and find the vintage pieces, the older pieces, the things that people have had in their closet for ages that they want to come in and swap at one of those events. And you pick that up and individualize it, and it works for you in your style, creating your style in that way.
Mhm.
That is a euphoric feeling. Now you do feel better about yourself. You're like, it's not making it boring. This is fantastic.
Mm. Yeah,
What's
and it's
boring is everybody looking the same
yeah.
because they all have to have the same shoes and everybody goes and buys the same skirt and everybody goes and buys the same hat and the same. You're
Yeah.
like, that's boring.
And it gives opportunity to be able to tell the stories of the people that make the clothing, that people that make the hands that actually make it. To me, that's really exciting. And like, if we're looking at clothing and where it comes from and how it was made, and Remake is one of my favorite organizations, Aisha Barenblatt, and they have this amazing statistic that I think it's 160 hands touch your clothing before it from creation to sales for 160 hands. imagine if you knew who all those people were, and imagine if you knew the lives of all those people and what was happening to them. Like, to me, it makes it more enriching. It makes it more beautiful. It makes me more connected to my clothing. It makes it more exciting. And especially when you have like all the knowledge and information about the culture, whether it comes from Africa or Vietnam or Latin America or Harlem or Munich, where those things are made, I think it makes it more exciting as opposed to kind of being the lamb to the fast fashion slaughter, so to speak.
I could not agree more. I really could not. Having that, what is the name of that company again? That you said the tells
Which
you
one?
the number of people that touch your clothing?
Oh yeah, it's called Remake, and they're a globally known organization. They do advocacy work for the people that make our clothes, and
Okay.
they spearheaded a campaign called Pay Up, which was the campaign which was so unbelievable. Which actually, when the I'll just share a little bit about it. You know, was when COVID happened and fast fashion retailers canceled their orders. They were there on the front lines for the garment worker,
Yeah.
and
Well,
it
that's still going on now, unfortunately.
yeah
Still,
yeah
we're in this for a year now. There's
yes
people that still haven't been paid.
yeah and
Primark is a perfect example. I actually turned down a job with one of those companies
mm,
for
mhm.
legal reasons. I'll not say which one, but
Yeah,
that
no,
reason,
it's
I was like, no.
true. And the advocacy part of it, I think, is also beautiful because it also connects you to your clothing. So now I would say now, as opposed from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, people are now walking into those brands and saying, well, who made this? And why is it $2? And is that ethical? And should I like, I think now more than ever, consumers have woken up, which is awesome because consumers have a lot of power in their pocketbooks to be able to say, we're not going to be participating in this. And brands aren't listening, which is really great.
It is finally. And I've said that for a while also because it's something that we know. Like we are the ones eventually that have the power, follow the money. We're the ones that spend most of the money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've had discussions with people. They're like, "Oh, but it's just the rich that have all the money." Actually, and you're like, they have it, but because they have it doesn't mean anything. That's where you will go back to your value statement and assigning value to things. Your 3 billion in the bank doesn't mean anything to a company that needs you to spend some of it.
Yeah.
Like they need my $5. That guy's not spending $5. He's saving all his money. He's got 3 billion. His 3 billion means less than my $5 now to that company.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like we are the ones with the power in making the change. The consumers are the ones that are driving this. And I think that's fantastic. And I think that's where that euphoric feeling that you talk about comes from. It is
Oh
that
my God.
energy of doing the right thing and doing something good while having a little bit of fun and having that community. You're like, that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
There's that euphoria. You're
Well,
you're going
I
to share
mean,
that energy. It's going to be there.
Donnie, I'm going to be honest. I mean, yes, you're right, but I will tell you that there are some people that are purely in it for what they're getting, and that's okay. I'm
Sure,
all for it. Like,
absolutely.
girl, if you're gonna, you know what I mean. If you're gonna come in and be like, like that's So I'm, as long as whatever we're euphoric about has a positive impact on people and planet, who cares? Let's just keep doing it.
Let's just keep going. That works for me. So
Girl, keep going. There's been some.
I want to
I've
ask
seen some like.
my last question. And
We
then
actually have some hilarious rules.
I'm sorry. Uh-oh.
Okay, sorry.
No, it was cutting
I
out.
was gonna say sorry. I was gonna just share a quick story about. Oh, I was just gonna share. We've had to make rules because people get real territorial over clothing. So we have to like start by saying like, this is a swap, and you don't hoard, and you can't take everything and look at it, and like be nice to your neighbor, and like help them. Like it's so funny because people get really like like they're missing something, but it's all in good fun. And that's what they love it. They like can't believe it. Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to be able to go to one of these events. I think it sounds
Oh my
awesome.
gosh, you're gonna be hosting them. You're gonna be doing these. Yeah.
I'll absolutely host one. Let's make it happen.
Mark my words, everybody watching this video, Donny is going to be hosting swaps and we're all going to go.
Yes. I will be part of that solution. I will be more than happy to do that. That's
I love it. Done. Swap day.
Swap day. Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yeah, I love it.
When it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, but Donny, also I want to share one last thing. It's also amazing for parents and who have kids. So we just did this one. The economic impact of it is huge. So we it was last year at this time in Bryant Park, and we had a kids section, and I was like, why? I haven't really done too many kid swaps before then, but now I'm like, this makes so much sense. So we have these parents because children's clothes, and I had so many parents come up to me afterwards and say, this is so smart. You saved me. One dad was in tears. You saved me $1,000 because kids' clothes are so expensive and they were out of them so quickly. So like, not just the fun and the excitement, but the economic benefit to people who have growing families is also super huge. So want to throw that out there.
And for kids, that is amazing as well, because he's right. They grow out of them so fast. They're often very, very lightly used. And then what are you supposed to do with them? You know, you donate them, you try to give them away or whatever, but it is a huge economic expense. And you have to replace them all the time. You know what I mean? It's a huge thing. Like, that is brilliant for kids' clothing. That's probably the best use for it, or one of anyway. I love it.
That's right, Daddy. You're gonna do that, and then also you can do Daddy. You know what though? That's why community is so important, because the thing is you can't just like throw kids' clothing out into the ether and be like, am I gonna get something from this? No. That's why you create a community, right? And so if you have a community and you connect to a community of other people that have kids, aha. Well, then there's your stock, or there's your intake, or there's your kids' next years of clothing. And then great thing is too is like you can get the kids involved and you can do upcycle workshops. So like maybe the sleeves are just a little bit too long, or maybe your daughter wants to have some sparkles, or your son wants to have some sparkles on it, like whatever. So you can incorporate all those things. And then for kids at a very young age, it's just magical to see them get so involved with the actual creation process of their clothes rather than try it on and wear it. It's just it's beautiful. It's actually one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Like the painful process my mother went through taking me to JCPenney to pick out a pair of, slacks for Sundays. There was no joy in that. That was just painful for all. Uh-oh. Are you still there, sir?
I don't know.
Yep. The background.
You're the best of both worlds.
The background was better before, I have to say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Batteries will be batteries, and sometimes they must be charged. So now we're back in bed with Patrick.
My favorite place for the most important interview I've ever done, ever. I love it. My favorite place.
Well, it is the last question, at least. We almost made it through.
Damn.
I mean, we actually really kind of covered all of my questions. Just you were very informative with your answers, so you really covered everything. But the last one is just this desire for the sustainability and these swapping events and the leasing programs, the resale ideas and things. What do you think that looks like for our future? Is this something that, as new clothes are produced more ethically and sustainably, and we understand and there's transparency in that maybe all of these things kind of move to the side, or is this part of our future?
Renting, leasing, that kind of thing?
Renting, leasing, swapping, all of it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Part of it?
100%. So just real quick, if you go to the circularfashionsummit.com, we put a report out which actually talks about all of this. And what's really amazing about it is that this report revalues the fashion industry from the 3.2 trillion or whatever it was to upwards of 5. And it's because of the idea of swapping, sharing, renting, and leasing. And essentially the fact that companies and brands, people like you and me, haven't really realized that they have been not optimizing their utilities in which they should. So like when I say not optimizing, it means like, it's kind of like, let's use Airbnb as an example.
Yeah.
You know, you travel a lot, Donny, I travel a lot. You have a house, let's say you're gone for 3 weeks. Well, your house is not being optimized because you're traveling for 3 weeks, right? So Airbnb figured out, oh, well, the house still can be used even though Donny's not there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take that and optimize it. And what we can do is then plug in the sharing economy. And then while Donny is gone, we can put the power of sharing economy and into Donny's hand, and he can actually rent his home, and his home can be utilized at no, negative effects to Donny, hopefully. And Donny gets to make money on that. Well, that's actually using your home twice, or maybe 3 times in a month, or 4 times in a month. So it's almost like you can consider it like that. So yes, I think brands are now starting to really understand that the optimization of wardrobing has not really been happening, number one. And number two, that it actually can be quite lucrative. And if brands structure this like new KPI into their business model, they can be quite successful. So my colleague Lorenzo, who's the founder of Loblico, always gives this amazing example. Every time I hear it, blows my mind, about KPIs, and it is so simple. So key performance index, or for people who might not know what a KPI is, it's what these companies say, that's how they track their success and their sustainability success, their money success, whatever that is. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's look at the record industry. So KPI success for the record industry 20 years ago, 30 years ago, was dropping a record and selling 1 million pieces of plastic. That was like, woo, we got a hit on our hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, those KPIs have now changed, and now it's Spotify. So our focus has shifted away from selling the piece of pressed vinyl plastic to 500 million digital listens, downloads, views, whatever that is. So the KPI has shifted. The KPIs have not quite shifted for fashion, and that's what the circular fashion model can do. It shifts the KPIs. So we can actually say, oh, we can rent, lease, borrow, remake, upcycle, and we can track and trace and monitor and retarget every single step along the way. So when XO fashion brands sells even a new item from their store, they can understand, or rents an item from the store, or leases an item from the store, or even swaps an item from the store, they can understand what the customer is doing, what the client is doing with that. And so then they can create membership models. They can create new ways for that garment or item to perform. They can do repair classes. They can do all that kinds of stuff because they've optimized it.
Yeah. They could set up something for someone like myself who maybe doesn't want to deal with packing all of my winter clothing because it's part of my trip. And I'm going to, say, Aruba, and then back to New York, and then to Paris, and then to Bali, all without going to, any other homes. And you have to pack everything to take it with you, and you're spending all the money, all of the travel. It's a pain in the butt to lug around, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're going to have those things. You need some sweaters. You're going to be in New York for 3 days in the middle of winter. It's cold. Like, you're going to need a big coat, but you're not going to need them in those other places. What if I could just lease that? What if there was a service that gave us a kind of a food box?
Donny, imagine.
You just sign up to your thing. You're like,
Donny,
imagine these places, and forget all of the extra travel and all of the things that you need to do, all of the packing. You're like, I've got my toiletries in my 1-quart container bag in my carry-on. And when I get to my hotel, they will have my clothing that I've rented. I leave it there. They pick
just a
it up
toothbrush.
when I'm done.
Toothpaste, toothbrush.
Yeah,
Don't lease a toothbrush, though. Have your own toothbrush.
Got it.
No. Have your own.
Brushes are
But let me ask Patrick says, don't lease a toothbrush, have your own. Donny, okay, turn the tables. So what is your favorite, what it doesn't have to be the favorite, but tell me one of the favorite brands that you've ever modeled for.
Giorgio Armani. That's like my family. I
Okay,
love
so
Armani.
God love Jordan. I think his birthday, I think we have the same birthday, July 11th. I believe so. If that's the case, yes.
Huh.
Anyways, imagine that you have an account with Giorgio Armani anywhere in the world, and it's a leasing account or a rental account, and you have a subscription anywhere in the world to be able to walk in to the freezing cold Milan because you're going to be shooting their next campaign, and you need a jacket to be warm. So you can go, you can call the membership person and say, you know what, have that jacket delivered to my hotel. I need it for a week. I'm going to rent it for a week. Great. Oh, shoot. Well, I'm flying down to Cartagena to shoot the campaign for spring, and it's going to be really hot. I don't need that coat. Let me connect with this brand down there, and I'm going to have a wardrobe set up for me there.
Yeah.
Those things are possible, but brands haven't thought about that until now. So, you know what I'm saying? So you have, I think, and people like you and like me are really starting to rethink about, yeah, like for not just with travel, but like, what are the essentials? What is it that I actually need? I have, as an example, I have a lot of friends that do Rent the Runway in New York City, and they are like, hands down, this is the best thing I've ever done because they've minimized their actual closet. So they've just gotten rid of all the stuff that they don't really want or need. So they whittled it down, and then they get to go to either the online or the in store, and they have a membership, and they just have things cycling in and out, and it feeds their fashion, addiction,
Yeah.
so to speak. But it does it in a really kind of sustainable way. There are some negative effects and impacts because items need to be cleaned, and there are things like that that have to be thought about. And I think now, with the industry really driving this direction, they're really starting to do product care in a more ethical and sustainable way. It's a long way to go, but imagine.
Well, that's also, it's going to come down as well to that design aspect. It all is going to have to start with the design. You're going to have to think about, okay, this garment is no longer going to be utilized by a single person and worn multiple times before it is cleaned and, whatever, these kinds of things. So we need to make it out of a fabric that can be cleaned differently, that works better, that is more sustainable, that is more durable, perhaps. They'll have to redesign these things. But as we're moving towards that direction, like, let's take those steps, right? Let's keep
Yeah.
moving that direction. They will catch up. They'll start doing that. And I think exactly that, because there is the market for it, there is the money behind it, and they're going to follow it.
Mhm.
Just that thing. That's fantastic. I love that.
Especially with incredible people like you talking about it. Like, you're a huge advocate and change maker and an incredible voice and person in this space. And so if somebody like you is doing it, Donnie's doing it, I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Like, that's great.
You started it.
No, but you see what I mean?
I am
So it's,
happy to get on the train, though.
yeah.
Patrick,
So
thank you so much.
thank you.
I appreciate all of your time. It was a lot more of your time than I thought I was going to be taking, but
Perfect.
I really do
Awesome.
appreciate it. It has been a blast.
A pleasure.
Uh,
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
I hope to be able to speak to you again soon regarding, setting up these new fashion exchanges that we'll be doing in the future, and for all sorts of other things. I actually linked the circular fashion uh,
Report.
yeah, onto the post that I had the other day,
Oh,
on
great.
the article that I wrote. So it's actually linked there. If you guys don't know where to find it, go to my link in bio thing, click on latest for
Oh,
sustainability, and it's there. You'll find it right there. So along
that's
with some other
great.
resources as well along these same lines. But all of the information that's out there that keeps this moving forward is, I think, fantastic. It's free. Take it. Everybody, run with it. Go. Let's do it. Right?
Yes, of course. Yes, open source that shit. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
Sorry for swearing. Sorry for swearing.
I won't edit that out either.
Okay, I love it.
everything,
Well, Donny,
everything stays in.
can I have a picture? Can we do a little pic?
Oh, sure, buddy.
Ah,
Hey, hey, what's up?
awesome. Okay.
Oh, that's fun. All right.
Okay.
Take care,
That-
Pat.
Thank you so much, Donny. Bye, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you on this in the swap opportunity land. Swap opportunities.